Hello, and welcome to Archive Dive. I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Each month, we dip into files on historic events, people, and places in Superior and Douglas County with local historians. A discussion on Superior's historic buildings isn't complete without Carl Wirth. The architect put his stamp on Superior, creating structures that were grand, beautiful, and well-loved. Many of his buildings have stood the test of time and remain part of the city's landscape. Today we'll talk about Wirth, his art, and the significance his buildings have in Superior. Helping us dive into the story today is local historian Teddy Meronek. Hi, Teddy.
Hi, Maria.
Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
So, Carl Wirth, was he from Superior?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Okay, where was Carl Wirth from?
Carl Wirth was from Germany.
When did he come to Superior?
Well, his family, and I'm not sure if his parents came with. He had brothers. He had his brother Max. He had Adolf. He had George. And I think there's another brother. They came to the United States in 1872 to New York. They ended up in the Dakotas.
Okay.
And he went into the architectural business. He had been trained in Germany, I believe. They were from Munich. His family was from Munich. Mm-hmm. And he had been trained at some art school or design school there. And so he came to the United States and he was ready to start a job because he knew how to design buildings. And, and his brother George was also an architect. So one of the first, I guess, places that I read about Wirth was in a Bismarck newspaper where he had designed a building there in like about 1870 something, 77, something like that. That was the first time I noticed his name. And I've been playing around with Superior history for a lot of years. And before I really got into it, I don't think I could name one Superior architect. And even after I'd been in it for a while, the only name I ever knew was Carl Wirth, but I didn't know anything about him. I didn't know where he came from or who his family was. His brother, George, I believe, went to the Twin Cities. And I think he lived in St. Paul. And then Carl followed him. But he didn't really stay there for a while. He, like so many other people, made their way to a booming Superior, Wisconsin.
Because Superior was booming at that time.
Superior was booming. I just looked this up yesterday. And in 1880, there were 633 people in Superior. 633 people. There were more people in my high school graduating class than there were in Superior, Wisconsin. By 1890, it had grown to over 11,000. And by 1900, there were 30,000 people here.
Wow.
So it was booming. And a great place if you were a young architect. He was only probably in his early 30s when he came here.
Okay.
He got a job. The first job he got was building a warehouse on the Tower Slip. Somebody was starting what were they doing? They were a forge. What was? Is that the correct term? But some mechanical business was starting down there, and they needed like a huge warehouse building. I read one story that said it cost $60,000, and then there was another one that said 10.
That's a big difference.
Yeah. It sounded like it was pretty substantial 2-story building. It burned down about a year later.
Oh, no. But that wasn't the architect's fault.
No. And, that was the first thing. But the reason Carl Wirth, you can actually say he's the architect of Superior, why he has that and holds that title is he somehow got involved with the Land and River Improvement Company, which was the organization started by General John Henry Hammond and all his wealthy friends that he had known in his life. Being a Civil War general, he had met a lot of important people. He lived in the Twin Cities, but he also had a lot of East Coast connections where the money was. And he set up this corporation that actually developed West Superior. Superior had already been a city. East End was the part of town that is the oldest part of town.
Or Connors Point.
Yeah, but the actual city, or when the was settled, that's where people lived, was along 2nd Street mostly, and they had businesses, and that had been thriving. Well, not thriving really, had held on since the 1850s. But when Hammond got here, those people were holding on to their land, even if they were not still here, because there were a lot of business people in the 1850s who invested in Superior but never intended to live here, but they owned property.
Mm-hmm.
But, you hear that Hammond's coming to Superior and he's going to do this and this and this. So you're not going to be ready to sell him your land at cut rate prices.
Mm-hmm.
So he just thought, well, phooey on them. I'm going to start a new city.
Basically, right.
West Superior. Yeah, which he did. And everyone had told him it was just swamp. You're never going to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, 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 blah. The land's terrible. But he walked. It sounds like he walked the entire area and realized that they were wrong, that it was not all swamp and that he could build a city here, which he did.
Wow.
So when you have a city, what do you need? You need buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So Carl showed up here at the right time and apparently got in with the right people. And he built the first really memorable buildings in Superior.
What were they?
Well, if you look at the intersection of Belknap Street and Tower Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1890s, Carl had built the New Jersey block, which we know as Globe News.
Okay.
He had built the Grand Opera House on that corner.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of the street, he had built the Hotel Superior, Hotel West Superior.
Okay.
Across the street where the bank is now was the Watkins block. That was one of his designs.
Mm-hmm.
Down. So he had 3 of the 4 corners
of
the busiest intersection in town were Wirth designs.
Wow. Okay. So high visibility.
Yes.
Beautiful buildings.
Yes.
The Grand Opera House was grand, right?
I know. Yeah. Most of Carl's, you can tell Carl's buildings because they're mostly very solid.
Solid German buildings.
Solid German buildings. They have, red stone or sandstone, whichever you want to call it, and bricks. Mm-hmm. They're very substantial buildings.
Okay.
But I look at the Grand Opera House and I think, oh, Carl had a little wild streak in him.
Really? It did not fit that bill,
It really didn't. I mean, it was a little, it was off, off his beaten path.
Okay.
Which I really liked. And I don't know if he was probably hemmed into by what the Land and River Improvement Company wanted, as far as what they wanted their town to look like.
Right.
So Carl went along with that. I don't know for sure, but he was a busy man. I think in the early days, there were about between 14 and 20 either architects or architectural firms in Superior in 1890.
Wow.
You go to 1900, there's 4 left.
And one of them's Carl.
One of them's Carl. And he designed most of Superior. He did the schools. Most of the schools are gone.
Not the Franklin School.
The Franklin School, he did that. He did a lot of churches. He did 2 churches for Holy Assumption out in South Superior. They both burned down.
Oh, no.
But he didn't design the current one, but he had done the 2 previous to that. Did a lot of schools. He did fire halls, everything. It's
just whatever kind of building you need, he can, from warehouse to church.
Yeah. But it was interesting when I was doing some research for this podcast. It's really hard to find out about Carl, the man.
The man.
Yeah. And I thought, what am I missing? I have access to all these newspapers, all these things. What am I missing? Why can't I really discover what kind of person he was? And in the early 1980s, there was a man named Paul Luzignan who came to Superior and did an intensive architectural survey. Give him credit. Those are the days before you had any online access, and he found out everything you ever needed to know about Superior, the people who lived here, the ethnic makeup of the town, the buildings, everything. You want to know? He's researched it. But the one thing he said is that he never got to know Carl Wirth. And I thought, well, I'm not the only person then. He said, out of all of the things he did in Superior, there's nothing really about the man himself. And I did know that he was a bit of bohemian himself, and he liked to travel. He was always traveling.
Really?
Sometimes for work. They would give him, a job to do, and he would go to other cities to see the designs that were turning up there.
Did that change his designs at all?
Well, it depends. This is a mystery I'm never going to solve. The Land and River Improvement Company was not at all times really forthcoming with who designed their buildings.
Oh.
And two of the buildings that I think are really different from the rest of Wirth's designs, and I'm not sure if we'll ever attribute these to him, are the old Telegram building. It was originally called the Maryland Block, and then the Washington Block, which was just restored a couple years ago. It's across the street from the library, across Tower Avenue from the library. They're both Land and River Improvement Company buildings. And Carl, just before the Telegram building was built, he took a trip to Milwaukee and Chicago because he was given the assignment of designing a couple of buildings. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to see what the latest trends were. Mm-hmm. In multi-story buildings. So he went to those two towns and looked around. So that was about the same time that these two buildings were built. And I just wonder, and I don't know if I'll ever find out. I don't know if he designed them. And in fact, the Wisconsin State Historical Society doesn't know who the architect is either.
How can they not know who the architect is of buildings?
I don't know.
Just no paper trail? Is it just?
No paper trail. Carl's office, he had an office in the old Truax building, which was across from the Palace Theater. Okay. He had an office there, and there was a fire there one year. So I imagine he probably lost a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't...
City records keep track of that?
Well, it was the corporation, Land and River Improvement Company, and I don't know how... Did the city have to get all that information? And then the other thing is the building permits before... if it's before 1900, they're gone. So unless you have the newspaper, and I've read every article about, like on the Maryland Block, they don't mention the architect.
Interesting. But you think maybe
it might have been Carl. The reason I think that is because Carl did design, I thought the name was pronounced Wemyss, but it's the Weems building. It's Wemyss, and that's pronounced Weems. But it was the old Kresge dime store building.
Okay, which is now
the dental office. Yes. Okay. Yeah, the building that stood there was designed by Carl. Mm-hmm. Mr. Weems was also part of the Land and River Improvement Company, and right before they announced that the Telegram building was going to be built, there was this really elegant dinner at the Hotel Superior. You should read about it sometime. It's very interesting. They talk about the menu and the people who were there, and Mr. Weems was there, and John T. Murphy, who is the publisher of the Telegram, was there, and Carl was there. They had printed menus that somebody had designed. They had flowers, they had silver candelabras, and they had candles, a very elegant dinner. And here were all these men who were involved in these buildings that were going to be built. So and Carl was included. He wasn't a businessman, but he was included. So I have just this suspicion
that he did build those.
That he did those. And then he decided, he lost a couple of commissions. He lost the Central High School Commission after 1900. That was, the school opened in 1910. Okay. And he had submitted plans for Central. And the specification said it was going to be a 2-story building. Well, Carl, from all its experience, knew that a school that big, you're going to need another floor. So they eliminated him on that fact that he had drawn plans for 3 stories. Well, then it turns out they hire Earl Barber, who was the man who designed the old post office in Superior. And he had designed a 2-story building, but then once he got the commission, it was decided that it should be 3 stories. So don't imagine that sat well with Carl. I don't blame him.
Was he older by this time?
Well, he was born in 1855, so he's probably in his 50s.
Okay, he's in his 50s. He lost a contract or two now.
Yeah, the other one he lost was for the courthouse.
Oh, the Douglas County Courthouse.
He was still submitting, even at that date, he was still submitting plans for that. Mm-hmm. So what he did is he went to Canada.
Oh, he just said the heck with you.
Yeah, he had. I think he had designed something up there before, so he went up to Port Arthur. Okay, and he actually did a theater up there too. And I can see a little bit. The picture I saw, I can see a little bit of the whimsy of Carl Wirth there, but it wasn't like the Grand Opera House because it also had stores. Like the first. Okay. Yeah, it was more like the old Broadway theater. But he did that, and he stayed there for a couple of years, and he came back to Superior because World War I. had broken out in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And Germans were not well liked in Canada. That's what he said. So he had to come back to Superior. And I don't think he did much after that. He moved to Duluth in 1916. But while he was here, you can really say, I think probably he had more buildings that burned down than most people ever designed in Superior.
Really?
Yes, lots of great fires. The Grand Opera House, for one, the Hotel Superior. Yeah, there's another one, didn't burn completely to the ground. Neither one of them did burn completely, but they were destroyed. I mean, yeah, all the time you're thinking, wow, that was a Carl Wirth building and it's gone. And a lot of them were torn down. You know, lucky we still have some, like the Empire Block, where Empire Coffee is. I had lunch there yesterday, so I looked around a little bit. He designed that building. And then there was a little post office, the first post office in West Superior was right behind that building.
Oh.
And that burned down, I want to say in the 90s maybe.
Okay.
And I heard that some of the structural elements from the building were saved. I don't know if they're still around anywhere, but yeah.
He built the Carnegie Library.
He built the Carnegie Library, yes.
The first one.
The first one, yeah. Yeah, I often forget about that with all these other buildings. Yeah, but he did beat out George Bertrand, who was a hometown boy, but well, we won't go into that.
Well, by then Wirth had been here a while, hadn't he?
Yes, and made a lot of friends, I guess, although I don't really know because there is very little about it. He never married, never had any children.
Interesting.
His brother I think his brother George had moved back to Germany at one point. And he and Carl went to the World's Fair in Chicago, you know, where the Christopher Columbus, the local whaleback that was turned into a passenger whaleback was. And they went there. And then Carl went back with him and they toured Europe. And then he went to Germany, I suppose, to see family. He was gone for 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like he could just pick up a Lufthansa flight and go over there. No.
No.
Yeah. So, but he was incredibly busy, and he also designed houses, and there are a few of them left that I could trace through
houses here in Superior.
Here in Superior,
I know the Roosevelt Terrace.
Oh, the Roosevelt Terrace is probably his best building, don't you think? Don't you think it's beautiful? He's one of those designers who the outside is sort of, you know, somber, right? But you go in there, and it's just
I
know. Oh,
it's a beautiful
thank
building.
goodness it got saved. But he also did Louis Hanich's house, which is out in the Central Park area. It's closer to Fairlawn.
Okay.
Mr. Hanich was a lawyer in Superior, and so Carl did his house. I know that for sure.
Did it have a wraparound porch?
Yes. It's very nice. Yeah. They've had Superior Porch Fest there.
It's a beautiful building.
His daughter, Elizabeth, died during the flu epidemic in the 1900s. And there's a scholarship that continues to this day in her memory that her parents donated after she passed away. He did that one, and he did the house at 1708 Ogden. It was designed for Frank Ross, who was a mayor of Superior.
Okay.
It later became a funeral home.
Oh, okay.
Very elegant little brick house there on the corner. And then he also did the one for Lowney, Mr. and Mrs. Lowney, which is sort of kitty corner from the Roosevelt. Big house on the corner. It's a duplex now, but I think it was a single family home.
That's a big single family
I know, it's a very big single family home. And I would love to track down all of the houses he designed. He must not have slept. That's all I can think about.
Well, he didn't have to go home and take care of the kids.
He didn't.
You know,
and he never had a house himself in Superior.
Where did he live?
He lived, for a long time, he lived in the West Superior Hotel, which he designed. He had to spend a lot of time living in buildings that he designed.
But he never owned one.
No, as far as I can tell, he never owned a house in Superior, which I find kind of interesting.
To have built so many and yet not
anything for yourself. A lot of buildings in the North End that are gone now. He built for people. There's so many things that are gone, which is really too bad.
Do you have any estimate of how many buildings?
Oh no, someday I'm going to check, but I want to keep digging into this.
Because there are still some that maybe have not yet been identified.
Right, his, and so many that are gone too. But he did, as I said, he did a lot of the schools. He did the Sacred Heart, which was the precursor to Cathedral School.
Okay.
He did that. He was involved. One thing he was involved in was they had a German theater society, and they also had a German society, an organization.
Mm-hmm.
And he designed the building, which was on Broadway, that housed the German club, which was upstairs, and downstairs there was a printer and bookbinder, Mr. Mast.
Did he ever act in it?
I don't know, if he acted, but he apparently had a lovely voice, a very lovely voice.
He was a singer, huh?
He even sang at the Grand Opera House.
So he got to live in some of his buildings, and he got to sing in one.
And I'm wondering
buildings.
if he liked the acoustics. I would like to know that.
I wish we could ask
I
him.
know, yeah, but he was always being asked to sing. Even in people's homes, if they were having a get together, Carl would sing. He apparently had a beautiful tenor voice.
Wow.
It's the only really thing I know about him.
It's something. Though.
I know.
It's more than we had.
And he
before.
liked to travel.
And he liked to travel, a traveling troubadour.
But he may have been just, an architect 24/7,
It sounds like he built enough buildings that kept him busy.
And I never found anybody any mention of anyone who worked for him, because he certainly had to have draftsmen.
Right.
Unless he was like Frank Lloyd Wright and just drew a picture and said, here.
Where were his offices?
Oh, all over. He lived in them, like the Truex building. He lived there, but his office was there. He lived in the old post office. He lived in the Hotel Superior, and his office was there too. Yeah, he didn't have like a Carl Wirth suite anywhere. He just, wherever he lived, it seemed like
became his workspace.
Yeah, his business and his living space.
Did he have a name for his company, or
no? By Carl Wirth. By Carl Wirth. That's all he needed was his name, apparently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are his buildings anywhere else?
Chisholm. I read that he built designed a building in Chisholm.
Okay.
And still up in Canada, I believe. And I'm not sure out in Bismarck if any of the buildings that he designed are still there. It'd be interesting to find out if they were. Yeah. I'd like to see the one in Chisholm too. I have to do more research. It's amazing. You're almost overwhelmed when you look into him. If you just put in his name in the, in the index for the digitized version of the Telegram, you get like 500,000 hits or something. It's just amazing. Because of course he had an ad in the Telegram every day too.
Right. Had to do that.
Yeah.
People know, not like his buildings weren't everywhere.
Right.
People definitely see what he does.
Yeah. So it's very overwhelming just to look for the name Carl Wirth, because you're going to be overwhelmed, but I'm not going to let it go though. And I think, starting out in this whole, I don't know if I want to call it my avocation, I suppose, or my vocation, like how little I knew and how little I ever thought about things like this. Like, there had to be somebody who had some money and had an idea and built these beautiful buildings in Superior, Wisconsin, where there were 600 people in 1880.
And then 30,000 people.
I know. And then 40,000, another 10 years. So
someone had a vision.
Yeah.
And Carl Wirth helped create that vision.
Right.
And we can still see it today.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. I love seeing his buildings.
Like I'm so happy that they saved the Empire Block and restored it. And it's so beautiful. And it's like the Washington Block and all of those. They tore down the one next to the Washington. It was called the Massachusetts Block. And Wirth did do that. And the Senior Center is there. Okay. But that was one of his buildings too. Wow. So he was sort of the major operator on Tower Avenue.
Right. Downtown Superior.
It belonged to
it
belonged to Carl Wirth. Yeah, it really did.
Wow.
So
very cool. Now I'm going to be looking around for Carl Wirth.
Yes. I wish he would have left a signature or something.
Yeah, a little thing on the outside of one of the bricks, just Carl Wirth.
Yeah.
Was here.
Yeah, like you can always tell a Frank Lloyd Wright house. You don't have to even think about it. Go, that's right. But yeah, Carl should have done that.
Maybe. Well, thank you, Teddy.
You're welcome.
And thank you for listening to Archive Dive. New episodes are available monthly at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you have a topic you'd like us to explore, email me at mlockwood@superiortelegram.com.